So today, guys, I'm going to be working with my Flexi Hand from Glitter Planet. I've been looking at these for a while, actually. I like the fact I have a flexi finger, but I like the fact that the tips go in really far and they tend to not move around as much as some of the other hands. Plus, they've got a really nice deep cuticle area there as well. So it's not something that's loose or flimsy compared to some of the other hands. So I've teamed that up with the Glitter Planet tips, 500 pieces there, and I have bags of them. So hopefully I'll be able to do lots of nice designs. Today though, I'm going to go back to basics. Basics, I think, sometimes is important. And I've been doing a lot of builder gel sets lately. So again, it's practice for myself. And I'm going to go, and in this instance, I'm going to start with a nice standard French polish. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a reverse French today. I always say French is something I struggled with when I was training, but I think if someone had have shown me the reverse French technique, I think it might have been easier. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be using, as always, my favorite, which is NTS, the NTS Dreamcatcher. And this is a really nice acrylic. It just applies really easily and it's really, really nice. So I'll be looking forward to using that. The other thing I'm going to do as well today is I'm going to show you how to prep a brush, if I could find it. So I got myself a bit of a bargain yesterday. I got this hand and I got this Kolinsky brush, number 12. It's brand new, hasn't even been used, it's still in the packet. Dundee and adverts, they're an amazing thing sometimes if you're looking in the right place. And a massive bag of nail art as well. So I'll be having a go with some of that later on too. But the important thing, when you first take a brush, you can't dip that directly into the monomer. It's got a glue. You can see it's really quite hard there. So I'm going to just bend that. You can see the glue is stuck into it there. So you have to really get rid of that glue, because if you don't get rid of that glue, it's going to affect your application. And you'll see it. You can probably see it. Flick, 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 flick the brush. It doesn't really matter if at this stage the bristles kind of, move out a little bit. The important thing is to get that glue out of the brush. So I'm just going to do this and I'm going to flick it, and I can still see that glue coming out in form of dust particles almost. I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I'm going to continue to do this until I'm satisfied that the dust is, the glue I should say rather than the dust, is totally all gone. And once I've done that, I'm going to dip it into a clear piece of monomer. So brand new fresh monomer. You can't do this too much, by the way. Brand new fresh monomer, I'm going to dip it in, and I'm then going to let it sit in that for a little minute, take it out and clean it a few times on my paper towel. And then I'm going to get rid of that monomer and start with some fresh monomer. And that will get us into the starting position for our French. So there we go. So that is my brush prepped. As you can see, it's back to shape. It's got monomer in it. We're now going to dip it back in the monomer. Make sure that there's no air bubbles. Take it out, rub the sides once, and go in and pick up a bead. So that is our bead. Okay, so you can see nice round bead. What we want to see is a slight bit of polymerization before we put the bead on the nail, because that just helps it to stay in place and to not run around as it can sometimes do. So I'm going to pop it down just there, and you can see that that is staying quite true to its shape as we put it down. I'm just going to pat it back. Now what I do sometimes do is place the front of the bead exactly where I want the smile line to be. So rather than doing your white first, in this case, I'm going to do the smile first. So I'm going to pat into shape. You can see that when we use the NTS powder and the NTS liquid, it actually is very malleable. It's a nice product to work with. Although the nail room is a little colder today than I would have liked. Actually, the temperature in your room makes a lot of difference to the length of time it takes to place your bead and to form your bead. If it's too cold, it will tend to be that little bit more runny. Then if it's too warm, it dries too quickly. And when you're patting, it's always patting at the belly of the brush. So this is just a little short set, practice set for me. I'm just going to pat, pat, pat. Now I'm going to go in with my cuticle bead. And if you think there's too much moisture, just pat the back of the brush so the monomer is drained out. And just place at the cuticle area. Pat in tightly, nicely. Just push in, leaving the width of the brush behind it, if you can. And that creates our shape. So we leave that dry, and I'll go back in after and file that, which is one of the good things. It's one of the things you can do when you do reverse French. You can file it to shape, whereas if you're doing it the other way, it tends not to be just so easy. So I'm going to leave that dry there. We'll come back and file it, and we'll move on to the next one. So drain the brush, see the bead. The bead should come nicely away. I'm just going to put it there, and you can see it just leaves the brush, no product. Start patting it into shape. Two bounces into the powder for the little finger and drain. I do find this difficult when I'm trying to video at the same time, because I'm looking at it through the lens of the camera, but also with a very bright light reflecting on it. probably a little further away than I'd like to be on a human hand. But you get the drift. Just a small bead to even out that area near the cuticle where the apex should be. You don't really need a huge apex on a short side, but we do need a nice shape. So there we have it. So I'm going to let those cure, and then I'm going to file them into shape, and then we're going to put our white on. This nail I'm going to do slightly differently in that I'm going to do an ombre on this nail. So we'll start with our white powder, our white base first, and then we'll go in with our other naked, our other core. I personally always find a white powder harder to work with. I think it takes longer to polymerize. I think it can be probably a little bit more runny than some of the other powders. So just make sure to put it on nicely, let it sit, and just pull it back so that there's a very thin coat of white further up the nail. And just leave it. Pat, pat, pat. I'm just going to leave that for now. So that one I'm going to place right in the middle of the nail. Wipe my brush clean. Let it find its shape. And just lightly pull down into and over the white. Got a nasty hair stuck in that. Let me get you. And that's that bead. So you can see the ombre there. Drain the bead. Cuticle. Make sure you keep your brush clean. And make sure you buy a good quality brush. Make sure you buy something that has got, that's not an acrylic material as such. Make sure that you buy something that has genuine sable hair. So I'm just going to go up, tidy that. And then what I'll do is I will cap that in clear. it doesn't actually really matter if you go over that blend or that smile line, because ultimately we're going to be filing. We just want to make sure that the nail is the right shape. That's just the important part for now. Okay, so these are dry. You can tell by the noise. So when I file, what I do is I make sure that the length of the nail is flush with the side wall and file the sides, okay, to make sure it is. So I'm just going to try it in this. It's not so easy on a fake hand, no matter how good they are. They're never as good as the real McCoy. So straight at the side so as that it gives you a nice crisp edge. Depends what shape you're looking for, I guess, but in this case, and again, straight. So it gives you a nice crisp shape, okay? And then what I'm going to do is up and over. I hear a lot of people ask, you know, about why can't I keep the edge of my nail sharp and so on and so forth. And I think a lot of it is that, and one thing that I wasn't shown was how to file. So for me, it's up and over on both sides, up and over. And make sure you get that white off the nail, because what we want to see is that lovely, crisp smile line that we created. So I'm just going to go over this again, up and over. Make sure you look at your nail, make sure you look at it down the barrel of it and at the sides of it. And make sure you're happy with the shape. So there we have it. As if by magic, everything has been filed off camera. And as you can see, we've got our lovely smile line, perfectly neat, and a lovely smooth ombre. So I'm going to pop a top coat on these and possibly a little butterfly, and I'll be back with a picture.